The first scream came from the radio at 2:17 a.m., sharp and broken by static, and Daniel Mercer knew, before the dispatcher finished the sentence, that his life was about to split in two again. He had been half asleep on the couch, boots still on, a thin blanket pulled up to his chest, the kind of sleep that never really rested him. When the address crackled through the speaker, his jaw tightened. He didn't curse. He didn't sigh. He simply reached for his helmet because this wasn't what he had signed up for when he imagined a quiet life, but it was what he did now, and people were counting on him. Daniel hadn't planned to become the man everyone called in the worst moments of their lives. Years ago, he had been a civil engineer with neat blueprints and predictable days. He had a wife named Laura, a small house with a porch swing, and plans that stretched neatly into the future. Then one rainy evening, a bridge collapsed on the outskirts of the city, a bridge Daniel had inspected months earlier. An investigation cleared him of fault. But guilt doesn't care about official reports. Laura never said it out loud, but the silence between them grew heavy, filled with unspoken what-ifs. When she left, Daniel sold the house, quit his job, and enrolled in emergency response training. If he couldn't prevent every disaster, he would at least run toward them instead of away. Now, at 38, he was a senior rescue officer in the city's emergency services unit. The job had hardened him in some ways and softened him in others. He had seen fires swallow entire apartment blocks, floods erase neighborhoods, and accidents that no training manual could prepare you for. But he had also seen people survive against all odds, clinging to life with a strength that humbled him every time. That was why he stayed. The call that night was a chemical plant explosion on the east side, a place that employed hundreds and sat dangerously close to a residential area. As Daniel drove through empty streets, lights flashing, he felt the familiar mix of dread and focus settle in his chest. This wasn't what I signed up for, he thought, remembering the days he wanted simple problems and simple solutions, but it's what I do. At the site, chaos had already taken root. Flames licked the sky, painting it orange, while sirens wailed in overlapping cries. Workers stumbled out through broken gates, faces smeared with soot and fear. Daniel jumped out of the truck and pulled on his gloves, scanning the scene with practiced eyes. His team followed, including Maya Chen, a paramedic whose calm under pressure bordered on uncanny, and Luis Alvarez, a rookie firefighter who still wore his emotions too close to the surface. "We've got people trapped inside," a plant supervisor shouted, voice shaking. "A maintenance crew, night shift." And Mizo, the West Wing collapsed. Daniel nodded once. "We'll get them," he said, not because he was certain, but because someone needed to hear it. Inside the plant, heat pressed in like a living thing. The air was thick with smoke and chemicals that stung the eyes. Daniel led the way, counting steps, marking turns in his head. Training kicked in, muscle memory guiding him forward. They found the first trapped worker pinned under debris, alive but badly injured. Maya worked quickly, her voice steady as she reassured the man while Daniel and Louis lifted metal just enough to pull him free. Then the floor shuddered beneath them. Daniel, Louis said, panic creeping into his tone. "I felt it," Daniel replied. "We move now." They escorted the injured worker out, just as a secondary explosion ripped through part of the structure. Outside, Daniel handed the man over to another medical team. Before he could catch his breath, a young woman ran up to him, eyes wide and desperate. Daniel looked at the building, flames raging harder now. Protocol screamed at him to wait for structural engineers to reassess. But he saw the woman's hands shaking, the raw terror in her eyes. He thought of Laura, of all the times he'd hesitated before and wished he hadn't. "Mia," he said quietly, "you stay out. Louis, you're with me." Louis swallowed hard but nodded. They went back in. The West Wing was worse than Daniel had imagined. Debris formed a twisted maze, and visibility was almost zero. They called out, voices muffled by masks and smoke. For a long, terrifying minute, there was nothing. Then a faint response. "Help, I'm here." They followed the sound and found Ethan trapped in a pocket beneath a fallen beam. His leg was crushed, and blood pooled beneath him. He was conscious, but his eyes were glazed with pain. "Hey," Daniel said, crouching beside him. "We've got you. Stay with me. We've got you. Stay with me." As they worked to free him, the building groaned again. Daniel's radio crackled with warnings of imminent collapse. Time narrowed to a razor's edge. "Daniel," Louis said, voice breaking. "Voice breaking." "We don't have much time," Daniel replied, straining against the beam. One more push. They managed to free Ethan's upper body, but his leg was stuck fast. Daniel made a decision he would replay in his mind for years. "Ethan," he said, gripping the man's shoulder, "listen to me. We can't get you out like this. If we stay, none of us make it." Ethan looked at him, realization dawning. Anatede. Tears cut clean lines through the soot on his face. Do it," he whispered. Please. I don't want to die here." Daniel's hands shook as he applied the tourniquet. He didn't look away when he did what had to be done. Seconds later, they were dragging Ethan out as the west wing collapsed behind them in a thunderous roar. Outside, the young woman screamed when she saw her brother, then collapsed in relief when she realized he was alive. Daniel stepped back, heart hammering, hands stained red. Later, as dawn crept in, the adrenaline faded, leaving behind a hollow ache. Daniel sat on the curb, helmet beside him, staring at nothing. Maya joined him, handing him a bottle of water. "You did everything you could," she said softly. He nodded, but the words didn't settle. This wasn't what he had signed up for, not the nightmares, not the impossible choices. Yet it was what he did, because walking away would mean letting fear win. Weeks passed, and the city moved on, as it always did. The plant incident became another headline, another statistic. Daniel tried to return to routine, but something had shifted. He found himself snapping at colleagues, losing sleep, replaying moments from the rescue over and over. The guilt he thought he'd buried years ago clawed its way back to the surface. One afternoon, his supervisor, Helen Brooks, called him into her office. Helen was a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Sit down, Daniel," she said. He did. "You're one of our best," she continued. "But lately, you're not yourself. I'm fine," he said automatically. She raised an eyebrow. "You don't get points for pretending with me." Silence stretched between them. "I don't know how long I can keep doing this," Daniel finally admitted. "Every call takes something. I'm not sure how much I have left." Helen leaned back, considering him. "You think any of us knew what we were signing up for? We didn't. We learned along the way, and we lean on each other. You don't have to carry it alone." She suggested time off, counseling, a chance to breathe. Daniel resisted at first, then reluctantly agreed. Taking a step back felt like failure, but he was too tired to argue. During his leave, Daniel returned to his childhood town, a quiet place by the river where his mother still lived. Margaret Mercer greeted him with a tight hug, her eyes lingering on the lines his job had carved into his face. "You look older," she said gently. "So do you," he replied, managing a smile.